I know this won't reach the people who I want to say this to, but brands, game developers, studios, and places that are trying to market to a lot of people, stop going to the West Coast, or at least stop going only to the West Coast of the US. There's a whole other coast. The coast that also has New York City. There's New York City, there's Atlanta, there's Washington, D.C., there's Baltimore, there's Philadelphia, there's Boston, Orlando, and Miami. Like, there are so many cities on the West Coast or the East Coast that just never get cool shit. Hello and welcome. My name is Vex, and today is Friday. We don't have a Godforge leak to go over, but there is a video put out. I think it was put out earlier this week. It is the right video this time. And it's titled The Reality of Our Beta right now. And it's just like a bunch of beta news and a bunch of like, I think it's like trying to tell people to like pump on the brakes a little bit, because I think people are expecting too much out of a beta. There was recently a podcast that we talked about in our last video, which you can check on the channel. You know how to find things. We talked about what exactly a beta means and what to expect from a beta. And I thought that I took a pretty measured approach. And the Fateless team decided to release this video to show us a little bit about what we can expect when the beta comes out sometime in May. So let's get into it. This should theoretically be like a normal length video, but maybe turn on the 1.25% speed. Whatever, let's get into it.
Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. I've been asked to do a video actually, which I'm quite keen to do. So I've been asked to do a video talking about what we should expect in the beta, and also how much of what we're seeing is like final, game ready footage. Let's bear in mind that the beta now, we're aiming for May, so
Yep.
a few months away. We've also got
It is now
our
February.
plans to kind of like soft launch around September, full launch by the end of the year.
I still don't know what soft launch versus full launch means. And I'm kind of afraid there's going to be like a early access to like this is worst case scenario, that there's a early access to whales, like $100 founders pack. You get to play the game a month early. I'm hoping that's not the case, but a soft launch and a full launch are things that they've been throwing around recently, and hopefully we get some more clarification on what that is later.
Which, in gaming terms, is not a lot of time. Okay, so, and I've seen extremes in comments. I've seen the extreme of take your time, deliver the best game you can. I'd rather you delivered a brilliant game than try to rush something
That's fair.
out.
That's fair.
That's my camp, by the way, as well. I will not deliver a crap game. Fact. If we end up being a year late because I felt like the game was crap, or people told me the game was crap, then that's how late we'll be. But I am someone who likes to keep to time frames, and we are working extremely hard to deliver against the time frames that we're setting, because we want to get the game out there. We want you guys to enjoy it. So the other extreme is I'm seeing people say, just let us play now. What you've got is enough. I want to try it. Why don't you release your game?
What they have now is not
I guess
enough for a full
back
game.
to the first statement. I won't release a crap game.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
what I want to talk to you is about where we're at from what you're seeing so far, and then how hard is it to get to like the end point where we want to get to. So we currently have, this is an interesting one, we currently have a launcher that is working on PC, Mac, Android, iOS. All of the platforms really that we want to launch with, we can already play our version of the game on. And we've got two, I guess, tracks of game development. We've got one which is relatively stable. It's a demo that we're able to show people, show anyone that we want. And then we've got another one where
They
it's
use
like
that at
all of
events,
the
I think.
developers are working on it actively on a day-to-day basis, implementing new stuff, which is probably why when you see me show you stuff on these videos, you're seeing the stable-ish version versus seeing the one where there's like loads of new stuff being packed into all the time. So if I go into the experience here on my PC, Alt-Enter already works, by the way, to make it full screen, which I like. Some games don't do that. It's very annoying. And
Hotkeys.
yeah, obviously we've just got like
Whoa.
cinematic, which is done.
Hang on.
Alt-Enter already works, by the way, to make...
So I didn't freeze frame this the first time I
like.
watched it. I think
Some
I
games
missed it.
don't do that. It's
But this is like a snippet of the cinematic, and we're gonna get the full cinematic at GDC, which I think is in March. Could be wrong. But they keep talking about this cinematic, and like, it better deliver.
very annoying. And yeah, obviously we've just got like a
I mean, it looks.
cinematic which is done.
Oh man, you can't really get much from that.
I'm not sure it works, by the way, to make it full screen, which I like. Some games don't do that. It's very annoying. And yeah,
It's just like
just got like
asphalt and fire and water. I mean, it looks like a cinematic. I don't know. They've got some decent minds working on it, so
a cinematic which is done.
I'm hoping it'll
I'm not
look
showing
good.
you it, but it is done, ready to go. We're actually going to live release it at GDC. So there's going to be a launch event at GDC, which is going to be very cool. Keep an eye on our socials for information about that. It's not like a community event, but if you happen to be in the San Francisco area and are around, then damn, we would love for people to come and be.
So, I kind of want to. I know this won't reach the people who I want to say this to, but brands and game developers and studios and places that are trying to market to a lot of people, stop going to the West Coast. Or at least stop going only to the West Coast of the US. There's a whole other coast. There's the coast that also has New York City. There's New York City. There's Atlanta. There's Washington D.C. There's Baltimore. There's Philadelphia. There's Boston. There's Orlando and Miami. Like, there are so many cities on the West Coast or the East Coast that just never get cool shit. Maybe I'm just salty, but like even Zenless went to I think they went to PAX East last year. And that was the only time Hoyo's gone to an East Coast convention. Like, yeah, they go to Vegas, they go to all these things on the West Coast, and it's like, I live so far from there. Go to Australia too.
Be involved. We have like a first-time user experience, which is there's some stuff which is placeholder.
This is interesting. I don't know what this character is in the middle here, but he's got like a weapon that looks like it has chains on it, but the chains are just like stiff chains. It's interesting.
You're seeing in terms of light,
new player experience.
Shaders,
Skip battle for new player experience is pretty good.
Stuff like that is placeholder, but ultimately we're moving in the right track to be very ready for beta. Like we could release where we're at with first user experience today, and it would probably be enough for beta. I do want to show you.
So I think I want to put together. I say this, and I'm not going to do it, but I think I want to put together something about the HUD and graphic design of Godforge. I don't know if it's necessarily just my personal taste that's like clouding my mind, but there are some aspects of it that I enjoy and some aspects of it that I just really don't. Like, I don't know if it's a choice or if it's on purpose, but this Brynhild, this is super boring, and I'm so sorry if you don't like this kind of thing. Just skip ahead a little bit. This nameplate could be shifted like 10 pixels up, and it would align with this top bar here, and I think that would just look a lot cleaner. Like if you're meaning for it to be like something on top of it, like I guess that's a choice, but it doesn't even look like it's on top of it. It looks like it's just. I don't know. I think I'm too picky.
There's some stuff which is placeholder.
I've never made a game, by the way, so
a lot of what you're seeing
don't care about what I say.
Lighting, shaders, and stuff like that is placeholder, but ultimately we're moving in the right track to be very ready for beta. Like we could release where we're at with first user experience today, and it would probably be enough for beta. I I do want to show you something quickly here in terms of visuals, right? So this screen here, we were literally playing with it yesterday, Sham, Dan, and I, and we were like, hold on a minute. It feels a bit dark.
Yeah,
and I know it's meant to be a bit of a dark.
Ooh. Core abilities used during battle during a hero's turn will go on cooldown. Oh, this is still first time user experience. I really like. I think this was in a previous video, and I forgot to talk about it. The turn meter on the left hand side, it shows you who is going next. It might get a little tricky if there's two of the same type of person on the enemy team, but I think Star Rail does this pretty well. But I really like that you get to see who is going next, and it's typical in most turn-based RPGs, so you can plan for what's coming. But in Raid Shadow Legends, it's impossible to tell who is going next. If everybody's turn meters are full, you have no idea who's going next. And this lets you plan, and this is like super good. And I'm sure if you did turn meter boosts, somebody would skip ahead of another person, and that's super, super good. And I know I talked about this early on in game development, and I'm glad that they decided to go with that.
Feeling, but I do want to see the enemies better, and the equivalent of dropping a light just down a touch in the main build.
So I did talk about, and I like I said before, this is coming from a place of somebody who has never worked in game design, specifically game design. I had talked slightly in the Discord about the HUD, and it seemed like there was some internal praise of what's happening with the HUD and the user experience. So it seems like it's at the very least in the direction that they're going. So I'm imagining at some point things will get fine-tuned, and that this is just ultimately the direction. But I think I could literally talk for an hour about this and like compare and contrast various games that, you know, are in this genre or not in this genre that do things with HUDs that are just like innovative and interesting.
And suddenly you get quite a different visual. Just by dropping the camera down and angling it a little bit more towards the enemies, I could start to pick up my armor better,
really
I can pick up their armor better, and they're the type of things that we're going to be doing in that lead up to beta, and it's basically called the polish phase. And actually, it's the most important phase because all of the work you're putting in is how you make it look as good as you possibly can without costing you loads of, like, I guess, computing power, okay? It's just lighting and shaders and stuff. So this first time...
It's only lighting.
Is
in Unity Engine, it's only lighting.
Working.
Choose a name, one to resonate through the ages.
This is very placeholder, but it's got the right sort of vibe of what we're after. So,
okay, so maybe there's only 3 starting characters.
like choosing your dude. Anything here?
This is also another thing, like, it's so interesting to me that as a company, I mean, I know they work with a third-party studio for their artwork, but they're mostly just like wrapped into Godforge stuff. I mean, I'm sure they work on other projects too, but it's interesting to me that so much of the placeholders in the game are not sketches and things like that. There's a lot of placeholders in this game that are AI generated imaging. I've talked about this at length before. I'm not going to talk about it again. I have no problem with it. It's just interesting to me. And it's also interesting to me that nobody in the community has talked about this. Just pointing that out.
It is placeholder, but it's starting to move in the direction that we want it to be. So the type of vibe that we're looking for from the Sanctum is kind of...
We've talked about the entire Sanctum before.
This vibe,
but like even up here, like I know this isn't final, but like this being translucent makes it so difficult to discern what's going. I'm looking at the top left here, near where this person's name and player power is. Like it's so difficult to discern what's going on with the edge of this like player plaque. And like this could be something that's like a customizable thing. Like you could have a banner here that's like something that you earned from an event, and it's got, you know, a character. Or if it's something like in Valorant, you'll have like those character cards that you pick from, and it's like another piece of identity for you. But instead, we've got this like translucent thing here, and you can't. And it's not even like it's one color. Like if it was just one color or the other, it might be a little bit better. I don't know.
This is all placeholder stuff. The
I'm
Godforge
getting
is
bogged down. I'm sorry.
completely placeholder, but again, the vibe starts to feel like we want it to feel. So it won't look like this. This is literally just assets we had lying around to try and like create something in the vibe of what we were thinking. Could change, but ultimately, you know, the experience of crunching a crystal, going through and finding your hero,
The Night, Fate.
the type of info and stuff.
Trying to see if there's anything we haven't
there.
seen before.
But again, placeholder right now. But a beta, that might be good enough actually. That might be good enough for the beta, but it definitely won't be the screen we see for launch. At this point, all of these different elements, almost certain will be in the game actually. And off the battle sort of screen,
The red dots. Oh my god.
we like the feel of what we're doing here.
Make it a different color.
It might end up being
Oh, mobile games.
changed a bit, but ultimately the sort of feel of it feels good.
I hate the red dots.
When we get into, you know, like campaign, so for beta, we're hoping to have 5 maps fully done, ready to utilize. At the moment, we've got 2 which are extremely kind of like good to go with the right hero placements and that type of stuff. But yeah, by beta, we want 5. By launch, we want the full 10 for campaign.
Okay, that's cool.
With
And he's saying beta, but like he said it before, and we've talked about it before, that there's going to be more than one beta. There might not be more than one open beta or public beta, but there will be more than one beta.
all of the assets done. And what's interesting is
Yeah. I was thinking that in the last video, like this
screen we see for launch.
this
At this
button,
point, all of these different
I mean, it's still I couldn't tell if this is created by AI or a person, but
elements,
at the very
almost
least,
certain will be in
it
the game,
has an
actually.
animation,
And off
sorta. It's got this like sweet arc around everything, and all the icons are finished. So like this seems like it's gonna be final. This button, it's kind of cool.
guys in to basically control how the heroes operate. Like
Yeah. Those icons look sick.
there's a lot of different like elements to it, and if you just concentrate on one, you won't have a game, right? So there's a ton of stuff that you have to do. Also, with
Yeah, more polished.
heroes,
Yeah, like even this screen, like I'm just hoping like we're saying that it's just not final, because like why do you have these rounded corners but also a hard edge corner and not just like a filigree border or just rounded corners? This like crumpled paper texture in the background kind of looks a little strange.
there are the same type of number of different elements to do. So just because we've got a lot of people creating 2D concepts into 3D doesn't mean they're game ready, right? So you kind of have to put in the work right across the game to be able to do this stuff. Let's throw a couple of heroes in here. Some are animated, some are not. And that's kind of what I mean, honestly, in terms of the work. But, you know, the general feel of the game at this point is close to how we want it to feel. But there's still a lot.
I still don't know what this bottom bar means, because it's clearly not the turn meter. Unless it is. Unless there's... Because they've got turn meter on the left-hand side.
Of stuff to
Like,
tidy
why
up.
would... Maybe that's like character energy for their ultimate?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Some of the portraits are not right at this point. Some of the UI is going to change. We've done a big like revamp of it on the main build. So what you're seeing is kind of, I'd say, moving towards maybe 70% there.
70% of the
not
beta.
by any means 100%. You know, you can see in someone like a Herc here, the jump smash feels pretty good, and I kind of like it in terms of visual. You know, some of the animations are purely placeholder, like this one, purely placeholder.
Oh my
But
god.
still kind of looks pretty cool. And all we've done is we've remapped someone else's animation
Looks like the Green Knight,
onto
maybe.
to her for the demo at this point, right? So Guan Yu, again, he looks pretty sweet. His placement is good. He's using someone else's ability.
It's interesting to me that they, at the very least in early stages of the game, they tried to take a lot of inspiration from Star Rail. I imagine that's because they saw the success of Star Rail. And I don't know. I feel like it's just not quite there yet. But this is,
but it doesn't look
we're still like a year away.
terrible. You know, so when maybe you see some of the stuff that we're showing right now and it doesn't feel quite right, that's because it's not, and it's not
Thank you, Simon, for answering the question I literally just had.
intended to be at this point. But by beta, anything we show you, which will be about 100 of the heroes, that's what we're aiming for beta, they will be pretty clean, like by beta, so by May. And that's why we're kind of like holding off on time, because we want it to feel clean, right? We want it to feel like the experience should feel like. And obviously for launch, we'll then have all of the heroes. So right now, it's kind of like a stand-in. What could a campaign boss feel like? This isn't obviously not finished, right? Look, it looks weird.
He's not even holding his weapon.
It's not far off the type of vibe we want. I feel like we're a bit close to them. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but ultimately, it's not a million miles away. And you know, I think I've said it right the way through. I'm being as honest with you guys as I can. We're showing you the development cycle, which is unusual. And because of that, you're seeing stuff, you know, a long time before it's finally ready. And therefore,
very true.
You might be looking at it thinking, it looks close enough to be ready. Why are you pushing back the beta? Pushing back the beta because it's not going to be ready by April when we thought it would. It's going back a bit because we need more time to polish stuff up and make it feel really good. But a lot of the systems are in, like being able to put debuffs on enemies, buffs on us. All of that's working, but it just takes more time to get it done. Like this guy's dead. Why is he not on the ground? All that type of stuff is little bugs that we need to fix because we don't want that experience for anyone in game. But let's let this bad boy play on auto for a second. Herc brings in the smash.
Apparently there's going to be a 3x speed.
Cyrus, Guan Yu gets involved as well. And, we move on and we get some stuff.
We get gear.
So, that's the experience of gameplay is not a million miles away. In terms of the roster screen, so we've got some heroes which are more animated than others. I do have a key where I can properly look at my heroes. I'd say, again, this screen is kind of close, but it's not finished. It's just, the background image is probably going to change.
Yeah, I think all the background images on the
need a bit more work.
Character images are going to change.
Posed weird, and it's all stuff that we just start to fix, really.
And I hope they're just
improve, but you
more varied
do
in backgrounds.
Feel for how some of these dudes are gonna look in game. That's what the demo's doing. The beta, they will be ready to go. There won't be like a hand hovering like this. It's just the way it is. All of this stuff is the polish phase, which tends to come at the end. And we've got a number. I don't know if I can show you screens. A number of the different screens, like skills. If I go into upgrade, for example.
Oh, here we go. Lord of Silence.
A number of the UI screens are being worked on, but they're not finished.
What the heck? What is it? 5, 6 stars. Are there going to be 6-star chickens? What the heck?
So, you know, a lot of these things are a work in progress and starting to feel close to the vision that we want, but they're not there yet. So I'm hoping that gives you a bit of a picture. You know, the beta will not be the full game. It will be a number of the dungeons. It will be the campaign. That's probably going to be it for gameplay, but it's more about feel and kind of like exploration of, you know, heroes and leveling them and using them and seeing if they feel good to you. That's the main aim really for us in terms of our beta. So yeah, beta coming in May, that's the plan. As I say, we will launch when we feel like the game really is ready to be launched and you guys are going to get the best experience from it. And
I've noticed that there's never any skin like button, so you can change skins of characters.
That's kind of...
I'm wondering if that'll be like a big post-launch initiative.
Just where it's at. So
because I even said to them on the podcast, like, it's crazy to me how Raid has not gotten into cosmetics more.
Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully that was helpful to see a bit more.
Like, it's so difficult to get skins in that game.
And perhaps for me to narrate what feels done versus what feels, you know, kind of like, I don't know, maybe 70% there. There you go, guys. That's going to be it for today. I've been Hell Hades or Simon from Fateless, and I'll see you later.
Okay, I've talked about this before. I want to touch on it again, just slightly before we end the video. I think that, and Simon, I think, responded on my previous video when I was talking about it. I think that the first beta should have happened already if they planned on launching this year. And I know that things domino and affect other things. Like, you need this person's, you need this thing in the game to work before you can move on to the next thing and next thing, whatever. But if the new player experience is ready and theoretically launchable now, then it should likely go into testers' hands. I don't know how much on the internally they have for QA, but it should probably go into testers' hands so they can give legit feedback, and not even just like bug fixing feedback, but also like, you know, emotional feedback. Like, how did that feel? What was your experience? Did you try it with all the different characters? What could you have changed? You know, things like that. I talked about this when we were looking at the Zenless beta. The first beta took place 2 years before the game launched. Hoyo has they've got enough money to not release a game for 3 years. I'm not saying that these are totally comparable things, but a beta doesn't need to be a million things crammed into one, because it's likely not going to last very long. The beta is... I would be very, very shocked if we had more than a couple weeks with the beta in May or post-May, whenever it's actually going to come out. And Simon in a previous video had said, like, hey, we're aiming to have 100 characters in the game by then. And, you know, maybe they're at that. I know they can pump out characters pretty quickly. And their workflow is set up so that they can do that, especially like rare and uncommon characters. But if we're given the keys to the kingdom and like a month's worth of time to play the game, I think it's just going to be too much data to really get too much information out of. There's going to be, and unless they say, hey, only like 10 people can play it, like, but then that's not helpful either. I think there's just going to be, in that future that may or may not happen, I think it's just too much freedom, too much information gathering, and not enough time to sift through it when you're planning to launch a couple months later. Like, there's no harm. Like, I'm thinking back to the Zenless beta. The first beta, we had very little story, we had very little combat, and it was literally just test the combat system, see if you like it, and try the story out, because we've got a couple quests already done. And the most amount of feedback was on the combat system. I know when they announced that, hey, we're going with this RPG turn-based style combat, that it was a big thing in the community. Like, oh, will they do it right? Will it be good? Will it be bad? This isn't Raid Shadow Legends. Oh no. So like, what if they release in the beta, they release the first player experience with like unskippable stuff, or maybe like after you play it once, you can skip through so you can do it with different characters or whatever. And like the first campaign, and like that's it. No summoning, no dungeons, no bosses, because I don't even know if they're ready. They've not really talked about bosses in a while. But like, let us experience the combat. Let us experience the free first player experience stuff. Don't let us roll. Don't let us random into characters. Don't let us build characters unless there's like some rudimentary artifact system or gearing system ready to go. That is, something that we could spend like a week on, and have that beta be like literally 2 weeks. It gives people enough time to play through it, really get their thoughts in, and play like no more than 20 hours in 2 weeks. I think that smaller chunks that are more focused would probably be a little bit more efficient than here's a couple weeks to a month and you have access to the whole game as it is so far. Yeah, I'd like to play all of the game at once and experience all of the different things like clan bosses and dungeons and things like that, and like the weapon system and the artifact system and all that. But I think it's just too much for a new player to handle, and too much for maybe it's just a personal thing. Like maybe I would be too overwhelmed and wouldn't have enough time to dive into specific features where I could give like honest feedback that would at least make me think that I'm helping. I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. They've said it before that this is, they're going to release it in like chunks when they're ready, but not as sort of quarantined like I'm imagining. Whatever. I've talked about it before. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully we get some new beta news closer to May, but we'll see. Until then, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Are you excited for the beta? I'm excited. I really just want to know like what's going on with the gearing system. I hope that they don't like censor that in the beta. That's gonna be so annoying. Anyway, like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.